Welcome back to News On. I'm Jessica Rivera. Unemployment has dropped to 8.4%, boasting President Trump as the COVID comeback kid to some. For August, the U.S. unemployment dropped more than expected and also added more than expected to payrolls. Still, with these major gains, the pace of payroll gains has slowed compared to recent months. And with that, I want to bring in our next guest, Rick Manning, the president of Americans for Limited Government, and Elaine Parker, the Chief Communications Officer of Job Creators Network. Welcome, Elaine and Rick.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Elaine, let's start here. Senate Republicans recently released their newest attempt at a coronavirus stimulus bill. How is this going to help out Americans struggling in small businesses?
Well, the Paycheck Protection Program, which Leader McConnell has expanded and extended in the new bill that they released yesterday, has been an unequivocal success in helping and giving a lifeline, essentially, to over 5 million small businesses during this pandemic, saved 51 million jobs. So a clear success, and that is why it's so important that this very successful program get extended to our small businesses. We've seen over 10 million jobs come back in the last 4 months, but when you look at some specific industries like hotel and restaurants and retail in general, those industries are still hit very hard. There's over $130 billion left in the Paycheck Protection Program. So there's a lot of money there that can go a long way to help some of these small businesses. It's very targeted, and that's what we really like about it, is targeted to those who need the most help.
And Rick, how has the president's response to the pandemic actualized his promised V-shaped recovery?
Well, what the president said up front was we were going to take an approach which kept America safe first, flatten the curve. And once the curve got flattened, we were going to go back to work. And the president's enabled that. His aggressive stance in terms of helping small businesses, as Elizabeth said, and doing things that actually set the way for small businesses to be able to open, people to be hired, has been instrumental in the job recovery. There's 13.7 million fewer people unemployed today than there were in April. Now, I want to remind people that in February of this year, we had fewer people unemployed in America than we'd had at any time since January of 2001. So this president is the jobs president. He wakes up every day figuring out how to get people back to work, and that's what he puts his mind to, and he focuses on it because he focuses on what the needs of American people are.
And Elaine, how do the expansions to the PPP in the Republicans' bill work, and what can you tell us about these expansions?
Well, it's very targeted, which we think is so important to companies with under 300 employees, and they have to show a 35% loss in their revenue. But overall, this has been a very successful program, and just incredible. 51 million jobs have been saved from it, and it's just such an important program. You know, small businesses, there's 30 million of them in this country. They were on the front end of this pandemic, but they are the driving force in this economy, and they are what is going to bring this economy back. With over 10 million jobs brought back in the last 4 months, we are definitely in the right trajectory. We just need to keep heading in that direction. And, you know, congressional Democrats have said this bill is dead on arrival, and it shouldn't be. This is a good bill, and it's targeted to those who need it most.
And Rick, how do you think that these expansions will impact the unemployment rate that's already dropping pretty considerably?
Well, I think what it does is it provides a lifeline for businesses in those states that haven't opened up. The states being run by Democrat governors like California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Michigan, states where the governors are pretty intent upon destroying the economy in the hopes, I believe, in the hopes of hurting the president's chances to win those states for re-election. Here's the fact. By providing help to Americans in those states so they can survive bad policies by their governors, what the president's doing and what the Senate's doing is attempting to make certain that all Americans benefit from the recovery, and not just those who are fortunate enough to not have repressive regimes in the governor's mansion.
And Elaine, what do you think the president still needs to do regarding the economy in order to win the upcoming election?
Look, I think we've seen some incredible progress. With 8.4% unemployment this month, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next month as we continue to see some of these states and cities open up. We do have to deal with some of these draconian orders, that Rick has mentioned with some of these Democratic governors and mayors across the country. But you can see that the underlying policies that existed pre-pandemic are what is helping small businesses get back to work once they're open in their cities and get this economy back. So I think we're on the right track. We just need to keep doing what we're doing and get some of these cities open.
And Rick, a similar question to you. What would you like to see the president and Congress address as we inch closer to Election Day?
Here's the main thing they don't need to do. They don't need to put more restrictions on the economy. They don't need to spend more money on pet projects. They don't need to spend money on things like mail-in voting. What they need to spend money on, if they're going to spend money, they need to spend money directly on the target, and that is small businesses who are being drowned by the government edicts that don't allow them to reopen. And giving lifelines to those small businesses so they aren't destroyed is probably the single most important thing that can happen. And not just from the election standpoint, from a moral standpoint. For these governors to destroy businesses and say, oh, well, that's just the cost of dealing with this is really an immoral taking of their private property. And the fact is this president, through these lifelines, the Senate, through their lifeline that they're trying to provide, will allow for those businesses to ride out the storm of draconian leadership in their state houses.
All right. Well, thank you, Elaine and Rick, today. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.